Good morning. Good morning. How the devil are you doing this Monday? I'm going to quickly say good morning to Mark Fitz over on Instagram, he was on the screen and he's gone off the screen again now. But good morning, Mark. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Lots of other people here as well. Peter McKenna and Dan Cullen, both back very early doors. Who else have we got here? Steve Williamson, who looks to be half asleep, judging by the icon that he's used there. Mark Whiting's in the house as well. Good morning, one and all. I'm not surprised that Steve is a little bit tired after the shift that he put over in Paris last week. And can you believe that this time last week, I actually got my first glimpse of the Intermat showground in Paris? Well, this time around anyway. Here we are 7 days later, and it's all over. Kind of. We've still got loads of footage to bring you from the show, and we'll be putting a further dent into our Intermat video library a bit later in the show. I'm hoping that we won't get sidetracked quite the way we did yesterday. Half an hour in, and I'd only actually played one video clip. Thankfully, I had nowhere else to be. There is Steve Williamson. Tired and feel awful. Yeah, it's the come down and the rich food and all the things that go with it. Peter McKenna just said, he said this, morning all on Fakibook. Yeah, okay, morning all on Facebook, morning all to everywhere. Earth Moving Plant Machinery just joined us over on Instagram. I didn't realise, but it wasn't yesterday, it was first thing this morning. I received a list of my most engaged viewers. Didn't realise that Facebook did this, and apparently they award points for the most views, the most likes, the most comments and everything else. And I can tell you, I'm not entirely sure I've spotted him yet, but I can tell you our most engaged viewer last week was Mr. Chris Ford. Mr. Chris Ford. And our third most engaged was actually somebody from a rival publication. Either they like what we're doing, or perhaps they're planning to do something very similar. We shall see. Peter McKenna saying, looking dapper and dandy. Thank you very much indeed. Just a T-shirt, but thank you very much. I'll take it all day long. And Jim Turner is in the house. Morning, Jim. Hope you're fit and well, my friend. Yes, as always, if you're watching on, well, whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, or Instagram, if you have anything to say, just drop it in the chat and I'll do my best to address it. And if you're watching over on Instagram, I'm looking right at the Instagram folks right now. If you're over on Instagram, do me a favour, let me know where you're watching, because we'd like to know where you are in the world. Today's show actually features content from Brazil, Turkey and China, so it'd be great to reflect the international flavour of the show with a similarly international flavour with the audience, if you get my meaning. Mick has just joined us. Good morning to you, Mick. Hope you're fit and well, my friend. Yes, we have lots to get through. So I tell you what, without further ado, it's that part of the show. Let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. Yeah, good morning also to Graham Footy Williams and to the hero of Steel Wrist, Mr. Gary Muirhead. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, Gag. Good morning to you, Gary. Thank you very much indeed for being here. You've seen the question of the day. We've already had one answer in. I'll come back to that in just a moment. But first of all, we need to do some things. So it is Tuesday, the 30th of April. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition. In today's show, we're going to bring you a spectacular blast from Brazilian demolition specialist Fabio Bruno, who's also a really nice guy. A Turkish backhoe loader from a name you might not know yet. How Caterpillar is giving you back time, and XCMG unleashes its latest ADT. Plus, with the smell of freshly baked baguettes still in our nostrils, we're going to take you on a whistle-stop tour of Intermat 2024. But before we get to all of that, we do have the small matter of today's mystery machine to decipher. So do need to say good morning to Mr. Hatcher, who has just joined us, and he looks like he's got the sunshine. We've certainly got it here. Lost one of my dogs this morning. I thought I'd lost one of the dogs this morning. She went missing, found her sleeping up against the shed in the sunshine this morning. She likes the warmth. Let's have a look. Now, here's the thing. Why is the intro different on YouTube to Facebook? It isn't. We do have a thing over on YouTube. So if you arrive before the show starts, you do actually get a bit of a preamble, but the actual intro to the show, exactly the same wherever you happen to be. Mick is saying, anyone see the news report about the mining by China in the Gabon and the report from an American bloke about electric lorries and the weight of the batteries? I really think this electric lark needs rethinking. There's an article coming about this. Tomorrow. It will be here tomorrow. Maybe, we'll see how we go. We may discuss that tomorrow. But just want to quickly have a look at this thing here. Michael Williams, good morning. How everyone having a great week, says Michael Williams over on the Instagrams. We're talking about electric cars and what have you. Electric cars aren't as heavy as a current diesel truck. And here we go. Steve Williamson says, oh shit, electric talk again. I'm going to try and avoid it. Have we got any electric content today? I don't think we have. So we will come back to that tomorrow. Some of the names of the Turkish machines. Yeah, we'll come into that in just a moment. Let's have a look. Ken Hatcher has been scraping the road again, and there is our friend Dan Cullen saying good morning to Mr. Steel Wrist. Mr. Steel Wrist, that is his new nickname, I think, Mr. Gary Muirhead. So good morning, gang. I've already played the mystery machine thing, haven't I? So let me show you what it is you have to work with today. If you can fathom it from this, I'll be mightily impressed, but not even remotely surprised. Here we go. That's what you've got to work with. It's a bucket, which would tell me precisely nothing at all. And I know what the machine is. It's written down on a piece of paper in front of me. If you've got any clues on that, I'd love to hear from you. And let us know in the chat, and anybody over on Instagram as well, if you've got any clues what that machine is. If you're watching on Instagram, chances are you're on a mobile device, so that picture is probably about that big, but do your best. I used to love the old intro tune, the one that Nick Drew and Peter Haddock had sung to death on a trip you were on before Nick almost ran you over. Yeah, that was at Balmer last year. The pair of them every single morning would be humming the tune. One of the reasons I got rid of it, actually. Dan Cullen is going with the Mystery Machine Ecobota 8 tonner. It is most definitely not. Peter McKenna says, glad everyone are doing things less boring than just driving around the top of a landfill. Hey, at least you're at work. At least you're out in the open air-ish. Gary Muirhead is going for the Yanmar VO80. It is not one of those. Mick says, okay, with the electric stuff alone, but a mate of mine got a load of rubber bands if manufacturers interested. We shall see. A dress code here is black. A dress code here is black trousers, black t-shirt, yellow vest. If you do something wrong, like not wear your hard hat properly, it's £150 fine. On all the other sites going, it's orange from head to toe. It's crazy. Being fined for the wrong PPE when it is the responsibility of the employer to provide the PPE seems a little bit misplaced. If Mick Norton pitches up, I'm going to put that to him because he loves that sort of thing. It is not a Yanmar, I can tell you that much. It is not a Yanmar at all. They would be getting told where to go with that fine. Yes, indeed. I'd be exactly the same. Yes, ARJ Construction gone into liquidation. Heard that this morning. I think Construction Inquirer reported that. 117, I think it's £117 million turnover gone to the wall. So here's a longer one from our friend, Mr. Turner. Here's a topic for you and the Breakfast Show Massive. That's you. I'm just massive on the Breakfast Show, but you are the Breakfast Show Massive. As groundworks and civil contractors workers are being dogged by the main contractors developers about people being in the red zone of the machines, lads on the ground need to be at the end of the arm in order to do our job efficiently. The main contractors need educating. The red zone is forever other Tom, Dick or Harry that comes buzzing around the machine with a death wish and no regard for whether I've seen them or not. Agreed. Let's have a look. Jim Turner is going for a Hitachi. I can tell you it is not a Hitachi and it's not a Yamaha. Let me give you a little bit more. I hope I haven't given the game away there too soon, but that's what you've got to work with. Mick says I'd be getting more than a fine if someone done that to me. Yeah, I totally agree. Steve Williamson, he's hedging his bets and he's going now with a Kubota. And no, it is not. It is not a Kubota, but keep the guesses coming in. Company called Red Rock employs black trousers, black top, and a yellow vest. Only if you're wearing your hard hat. If you're not wearing your hard hat, £150 fine. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We had this discussion before. Communicate in advance and it shouldn't be an issue. I've never heard the black shirt and the black trousers thing before, but if that's what people want to do, then absolutely fine by them. But I do think we need to have some common sense here. And finding people for not wearing their PPE correctly when it is actually the employer's responsibility to provide that seems a little bit misplaced. Valentine Machinery, who I met over in Instagram, lovely fella, French guy, French influencer. He's actually a demolition driver. And he is watching right now live on Instagram. Good morning. Bonjour, mon ami. That's all I've got. That's all the French I've got, but good morning. We're going to say good morning to Mick Norton. Mick Norton, just the man I wanted to see. Let me have a look at this. We're talking about dress codes, Mick. Our friend Footy is on a site where the dress code is black trousers, black t-shirt, and a yellow vest. If you do something wrong, like not wear your hard hat properly, or if you've not got it on, it's £150 fine. What do you make of that, Mr. Norton? Answers on a postcard, please. Dan Cullen is going for a Devilon 5-tonner. It is not. I can tell you right now that Mr. Steelist, Mr. Gary Muirhead, is on the right path. He says, Pell job. It's a good shout, Gary. It's a good shout. I need a bit more specific than that, but it is a good shout. Before we crack on, let me very quickly remind you of our question of the day. Oh, forgive me. Needed that. Yes, our question of today is this. What is a food or an ingredient or a herb or a spice that you simply cannot stand? In years gone by, I would have said tomatoes and cucumber, but I now like tomatoes and I can tolerate cucumber as well. But the food I can't deal with is celery. I don't care whether it's raw or cooked or braised or anything. I don't want it anywhere near my plate. But what about you? What is a food that you just simply cannot stand? And I think I've eaten tripe once in my life. I would put cucumber higher up the list of things I'd rather not eat than tripe. But what about you? What is a food you can't stand? Let us know in the chat. We will come back to that after the show. Let's have a look. We've had some more bits and pieces here. Dan Cullen is going for a Pell Job 3-tonner. We need specifics. Steve Williamson. Oh, if you'd have been around in the late 80s, early 90s, you'd have got on like a house on fire. Don't know the specs or heard of a Pell Job. Sounds sexual. Yes. Here's 20 quid. I'd like a Pell Job, please. Pell Job, EB 25.4. It is not. You're headed in the right direction. Footy says cucumber. I'm allergic to it. Can't stand it. Yeah, I'm not a fan. I used to pick cucumber out of things. I don't bother with that anymore. I've built up a tolerance because I do need to eat more salad and stuff. But yeah, celery. Steve says, yes, celery is like eating cucumber with perfume on it. Totally agree. Yeah, totally agree. Dan is going for the Pell Job EB706. Nope. He's also gone for the Pell Job EB406. It is neither of those. Ken Hatter remembers Pell Job. I do indeed. I think they were acquired, if I remember rightly, by the mighty Volvo. Answer of the day. Well, we'll come back to the question of the day, but I do like this one. Mick says, question of the day, fish, unless it's got an overcoat on. I take it you mean battered, right? Jim Turner is saying nothing wrong with the dress code as long as they're supplying the clothes. Nothing wrong with fining for violation of health and safety. Their ball, their rules. I just wouldn't work with them if they're being unpleasant people about stuff. It's a bit early in the show to be effing and jeffing. YouTube actually monitors that, believe it or not. It is acceptable to swear on YouTube, but just not in the opening 10, 15, 20 minutes. After that, they're a bit more laid back about it. I'm going to save up the swears for a bit later. Who we got here? That is Dan Cullen going for a Pell Job EB250, a little bit too big. Pell Job EB506, again a bit too big. Pell Job EB30, a bit too small, that one, I think. And here we are. Codro, or pronounced Rans? My granny eats it. It's unfertilized eggs mashed together. I love Codro. Love it from the fish and chip shop. Love it out of a can. Love all that stuff. And I can tell you, it is not a wheeled Pell Job. There is a picture that I can show you. I'm not entirely sure if it's the next one, but I can tell you this one is on tracks. So yeah, keep those guesses coming in. So yes, let me crack on with getting rid of that for the time being, because we do need to actually start the show proper with this. Lots and lots of guesses on today's Mystery Machine. I can tell you it is not a Pell Job 12. It is not a Pell Job 406 either. Now, this one does strike me as odd. Only one of these. Raw celery. Don't blame you. Codro, well, I love Codro. Malt loaf, love malt loaf. And egg custard. Surely egg custard is one of the great gifts from the gods. Egg custard. Surely? Just me? Maybe. What about those Portuguese custard tarts, the natas? Do you do those, Jim? I do, which is why I've got a figure like this. Keep the guesses coming on. Yes. Well, here lies a story. So I will get to the actual news in a second. On one of the middle nights of our stay in Paris, we got back to the hotel late, so we decided, myself and Fred took ourselves off, found a little Italian restaurant, and we both had a pizza. Mine had burrata on it, and it was delicious. Fred ordered the calzone, and the very attractive French waitress asked Fred if he would like the calzone with a heg. She actually said, "Would you like a heg?" And he said, "Yes, I'll definitely have a heg in my calzone pizza." Well, up came my pizza, and it was glorious. Big lump of burrata in the middle, all milky and delicious. Fred seemed absolutely fine until he started cutting into it. And there was like a hole in the top of the pizza, and what I can only describe as clear snot started to pop out. Turns out the heg that they'd inserted was in fact raw. So he ate along the pizza till he got to the point where the snot began, put his fork on top and pressed down, and a raw egg yolk was burst from the just popped out. So he scraped out all of the snotty bit and cleared his plate. But yes, if anybody asks you, if you find yourself in Paris and you order the calzone and somebody says, "Would you like a heg?" either prepare yourself for it being raw or say, "No." There you are. A Pell Job 251, it is not. Pell Job EB36, it is not that either. Let me add that. I don't need to add anything else because we have ourselves a winner. We do have ourselves a winner. It is Mr. Cullen. Mr. Cullen has correctly identified that the machine that you're looking at now, and I'm going to show you the rest of it, it is, in fact, a Pell Job EB150 XR. And just to prove it, it's even written on the machine. There you are. Pell Job EB150 XR. Congratulations, Mr. Cullen. You have the admiration of your peers. There's Steve Williamson laughing at the tail of the calzone with the heg. Question of the day, garlic. It would make a vulture throw up. I don't actually think a meal is complete without garlic, but that's, each to their own. Now, I did promise that we're going to start the show, and I'm about to do that right now. I'm going to say goodbye to Footy, who's going back to work because he's got a lorry waiting. Make sure you've got your all black on with your yellow high-vis, and make sure your hard hat is on when it needs to be on. That's all I can say. And well done, Dan, says Gary Muirhead. Right, so in the field of explosive demolition, each nation seems to have its own universally known specialist. Here in the UK, I'd say it was Safe Dem. In South Africa, Jet Demolition. In the US, CDI. And in Italy, Nitrix. But over in Brazil, the name to look for is Fabio Bruno. As you're about to see, they do demolition or explosive demolition with all the flair that their fellow countrymen play football. Take a look at this. I can tell you, the guy that runs that company is a guy called Fabio Bruno, and Fabio is as nice a guy as you could possibly wish to meet. So, Fabio, if you're watching, as always, congratulations to you and your team on another job. Well done. Who we got in the chat? Let's have a look. Jim Turner says she dropped lovely. She most certainly did. Apparently, this is breaking news. Man arrested for injuring people with a sword in Hainault, London. Oh my God! Yeah, oh my God, indeed. I'll come back to that in just a moment. I do want to address this. Not 100% sure, but I think the Barclay Group tried to find people on one of their subsidiaries members. If memory serves me right, they were threatened with a civil court action. They dropped the idea. Again, not 100% sure if it was them. I'll go and check. Just on the subject of this. I went to pick up my wife and my daughter last night, and driving back, came to a T-junction, stopped at the lights, waiting in line rather. As the lights changed for me to go, I pulled off, and 3 oiks on bicycles came round and basically cut in front of me, but they were basically riding bicycles in the fast lane of a 2-lane stretch of road. I've looked out the window, and one of them is basically effing and jeffing at me through the window. So, being the calm, considered individual I am, I banged the handbrake on and went out to have a word with him. And he rode off, telling me what a wanker he thought I was. Did make me laugh though. He was really, really brave as he was riding away at top speed. Yeah, that's the sort of people we're dealing with, I'm afraid, people. Bloody hell, Dan, that was the 7 this morning. Wake up, man. Is that the knife attack? I don't know. The amount of videos and pictures being sent from Paris is crazy. Didn't realise I had so many friends in France. Of course you did. Think about it, Steve. This is something that I rely upon increasingly. Every time that you decided to take your machine and your Kinzofer attachments for a spin, there was a big crowd. And you've walked around the shows. We're about to do it again in just a moment. You walk around the shows. Everybody has got a camera because they've all got one of those. They're all carrying a camera or a camera phone. And if they see something exciting, they will point a camera at it. And I'm not blowing smoke up your rear end, but of all the excitement at the show, I would say yours was the most exciting. So no great surprise, no less than you deserve. I hope that leads to lots and lots more followers over on your... trying to remember, it's Tilt Rotator Operators Media, I think that's what you're called. Can't remember, but if you'd like to correct that, please let me know. Steve says carrying a Chinese-made mobile, aren't we all? I will. Right, people, we do need to crack on because, yesterday's show went forever. So let's have a bit of this first.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
We should have a very quick look. Let's have a look. There we are. Nearly at the 50k mark this week, I think. Fantastic stuff. Fantastic stuff. I do love those landmarks. I'm not going to compare and contrast. The Demolition News in the YouTube channel hit 100,000 last week. Doesn't mean anything. It's only a vanity metric, but to be able to tell people I've got a 100,000 YouTube followers and it's gone up by about 300 since we hit that. Fantastic. So congratulations, Steve. Well deserved. You're doing some good stuff. And I have to say, Steve's stuff is how influencer type content should be. It is actually informative. It's not just look at me. Did you find out who sent the 200 stars? We can find no trace of any stars being sent at all. There is no record of them on our system whatsoever. So whoever sent the 200 stars yesterday, thank you. But they haven't arrived here, unless it takes a while for them to arrive. I honestly don't know. The problem I have, and I think I mentioned this yesterday, is I'm not looking at Facebook at the moment. I'm looking at StreamYard. So I don't get notifications on stars and things like that. So I don't actually know where they went. They may pop up. They may not. Maybe somebody was winding me up. I honestly don't know. Now, while we were at the Intermat show last week, me and Fred did a thing, which we don't normally do. We actually took some time out to tour the show and capture some of the lesser-known names in the field of construction equipment. Names that are not familiar here in the UK, but maybe could be at some point in the future. And we will be bringing you that film in the days or the weeks ahead, depending how quickly Fred gets around to editing it. But just to whet your appetite, we're going to look at one such company. I need to dredge this off of my hard drive, so bear with me for 1 second, because it is quite a big lump. And this is a company called Cookerova. My apologies about the heavy breathing again. I either need to remember to turn the mic off or not sit here like this watching videos. I do apologise. Imagine being on site and somebody says, "That's your Craic, that's yours." I wouldn't have a problem with that. Listen, I saw them up close, the wheel loaders and the backhoe loader. They look very good indeed. The company also makes machines for military applications as well. So they clearly know how to make their machines tough. Steve Williamson also got to see them as well. He says these machines look bloody good. Never heard of them, but by God, the backhoe at Intermat put the JCB to shame with its design and gadgets. Looked a cracker. Totally agree. Chris Ford, who has just joined us, or fairly recently just joined us, JCB would be proud of that video. If it had been theirs, yeah, I totally agree. And good music and good set of machines. Have to say, very impressed. The one thing that did strike me, I mean, obviously we do have Hydromek, Turkish-built machines here. Do we have Craic? Has anyone encountered a Craic in the wild? I certainly haven't. Not aware of them being on sale here. But if you have seen one, let us know. Love to hear from you. Because as I say, they do look the part. The backhoe loader looked very good, but the wheel loader, proper piece of kit. Very impressed with that. So yes, let's hope we see Craic here at some point in the future. While you're mulling that over, let's have a look at this. Yeah, Dan Cullen is saying he's never seen a Craic yet. And Steve Williamson says, how did you pronounce? I pronounced it Hydromek. I was told it was Hydromek. I wasn't told it was Hydromek by Hydromek. I was told it was Hydromek by somebody who knows Hydromek. I've been saying Hydromek for years. It seems far more sensible to be Hydromek, but I am reliably informed it's Hydromek. Either that or somebody was winding me up, which is a distinct possibility. I'm just going to very quickly pop back because he arrived a little bit late. I can tell Chris Ford. Chris, according to Facebook, you were our most avid and engaged viewer last week. Yes, apparently Facebook actually awarded. Bear with me a second, something's gone horribly wrong. Let me get rid of that. Yeah, that's it. Yes, Facebook, I didn't realise this, but apparently they award points for those that engage with our posts. And apparently, I think you logged 256 points last week by likes and engagements and what have you. Yeah. There we are. I learned Hudig is pronounced Hudig. We pronounced it wrong all these years. Yeah, Hudig sounds a lot more sensible, but Hudig. Besides which, Hudig sounds vaguely Scottish, doesn't it? Hudig, he did. Maybe, I don't know. Now, time. It is our most valuable asset, and we only have a very finite amount during each day, during each lifetime, which is why Caterpillar is working very, very hard to give us some of it back.
Time flies.
And crawls. But it never stops.
Time's your most precious resource.
Because once it's gone
for good.
every day, you take time into your own hands. Time for machine maintenance. You do it.
Time for ordering parts. You do that too.
There aren't enough hours in the day to make a dent in your to-do list. There's simply not enough of you to go around.
What if you could have more time for the most important moments of your life? More time for family.
More time for adventure.
More time for downtime.
You need a partner who can share the load. A partner who will work just as hard as you. Someone with heavy equipment know-how, technical expertise, guaranteed workmanship you can count on. A partner like your local cat dealer.
Who knows exactly how to help minimize downtime in the field.
So you can enjoy more downtime at home.
Yeah, I certainly agree with Steve Williamson there, who says, cool video, love it. Yeah, that must have cost a fortune. There's some really, very fancy edits in that. Wish Caterpillar could do something with my time. All the things I'd like to do, but I've only got 24 hours each day, and I spend a lot of it fast asleep. Dan Cullen saying, great video, Cat. Exactly as you'd expect, I would have thought. We do have more to show you right after a spot of this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
I'm going to pop back in the chat just a smidgen when I can fit. Yeah, I mentioned the fact that Chris Ford was our most engaged viewer last week. Oh dear, he says, better keep my head down and give everyone else a chance. Don't you dare. You keep them coming on. Are we still having a cat demolition show? We are. That will be in June. Off the top of my head, I think it's the 14th of June, but don't hold me to it, but it's definitely coming in June. Chris Ford says, as the good Lord said, work for 6 days and repair on the 7th. It's about how I live my life, actually. Time to make time flow, throw your watch out the window, says McDawn. Sound advice. Don't think I'll be following that, but thank you very much indeed for that. Now, if you were here yesterday, you might recall we featured a hydrogen-fueled Volvo HX40 articulated dump truck prototype, a hauler of the future. Well, today we're going to feature a hauler of the present, and it comes from those fine folks at XCMG.
Hello everyone, I'm Ryan. Today I'm introducing XCMG XDA45U articulated dump truck. Capable of handling wet, slippery, and muddy conditions, it performs heavily loaded tasks with ease, earning the trust of miners worldwide. Now, let me introduce to you in detail. The XDA45U articulated dump truck boasts excellent maneuverability, good trafficability, and remarkable environmental adaptability. With this articulated frame structure, small turning radius, and powerful 6x6 all-wheel drive, all-terrain suspension and adaptive control technology allow it to confidently navigate muddy, slippery, and spatially restricted work environments, even climbing the steeper slopes. Featuring a reliable wide disc brake system, along with engine brake and transmission retarder, the truck ensures safety on long downhill stretches. Equipped with an internationally renowned hydraulic system and high-quality hydraulic components, the truck utilizes a pump-controlled hydraulic system and load-sensing steering. The independent operation of these systems enhances stability and facilitates troubleshooting, ensuring the efficient operation. Thanks to its highly reliable design and convenient after-sales service, efficient equipment operation is guaranteed. XCMG's proprietary welding fatigue life analysis method for structural components extends the life cycle of critical structural parts. The stress relief technology for structural components significantly enhances the product's service life. With the push of a button, the hood quickly opens, providing full and safe access to the engine compartment via the walkway. Additionally, a safety support is provided for convenient maintenance. The spacious cab and cozy workspace really show how thoughtful XCMG is, enhancing operator satisfaction, motivation, and achieving high operation efficiency. The intelligent monitoring system for the entire vehicle enables smart gear and speed limitations, comprehensive collection of vehicle operation data, and facilitates equipment upgrades. With human-machine interaction technology, the scientifically and reasonably arranged control elements ensure flexible steering, comfortable control, and convenient and comfortable operation for the driver. The ergonomically designed cab meets ROPS and FOPS standards, offering a spacious interior and expansive views. The adjustable air suspension seat provides enhanced comfort. In addition to mining conditions, the XDA45U's excellent product performance breaks the limitation of a construction environment, and it is also widely used in various large-scale projects, which can be called multi-purpose. Here is XCMG's XDA45U. Believe me, it's worth every penny and beyond. So come on, don't hesitate. Seize the opportunity now.
Yeah, just going to go over to Steve Williamson, who says, I met the main man from Turkish. He came to our stand to look at the tilt hitches from Kinzoff. I shook his hand, but he didn't speak a word of English. I mentioned earlier that Fred and I did a bit of a guided tour of the lesser-known names. One of the companies that I came across was a Chinese company called Shanding. And mini excavators, they looked perfectly good. But they had clearly prepared for Intermat being a French show, because one of them said to me in very sort of broken Chinese French, bonjour, and I said I said bonjour, but I'm English, and he looked at me like, yeah, we don't have the capability. Computer says no. Mick Norton says Chinese products with robotic sales delivery, awful. I take on board what you're saying, Mick, but can you imagine me or you trying to do that in Chinese? Can you imagine me trying to sell an ADT in Mandarin? It's bad enough me talking about things in English. Barely comprehensible. I think the guy did a pretty good job, all things considered. Now, the one thing I would point out is he claims that his name was Ryan, but the caption said his name was Wang Yun. Don't know where you get Ryan from Wang Yun, but Wang Yun, I think he did a perfectly good job. Let's have a bit of this. Yeah, we're going to play out today with a bit of a whistle-stop tour of last week's Intermat extravaganza. And yes, I think Steve does pop up in this. Some of our more detailed and longer-form films are now being edited, and we'll be bringing you those just as soon as we possibly can. But if you didn't make it to Paris, this is what you missed. And if you did make it to Paris, here's a look back to remind you just how good the show really was. It's our last day at Intermat 2024 in Paris, and the show has been a blast. Let's take a look at just some of the highlights. That takes me back. Only 4 or 5 days, but it takes me back. Peter McKenna says, isn't everything made in China? Pretty much. Chris Ford with the comment of the day, I think it's hard enough to order off a Chinese takeaway menu, and that's in numbers. Maybe that's how we overcome the language barrier. Imagine the XCMG website. Rather than going through and I'll have the XE715 LXR, you just go on and say, I'll have a number 15 and a number 12, please, which means you'll get a mini excavator or a site dumper, or quite possibly you'll get some chicken chow mein and some sweet and sour sauce. Could go either way, but there you are. Peter McKenna says, you want to come to Preston, our local Chinese takeaway is fantastic, and they understand everything. here's a thing. Here's a story. This goes back long before Scott Plant was Scott Plant. I don't know if anybody else remembers this. It used to be I think it was a CMPE, Contractors Mechanical Plant and Equipment. Oh, I can't remember. But it used to be the CMP, and it used to be in Glasgow. And I was told I was going to Glasgow to see that show. This would have been late 1980s. So given the fact that I was going to be up there on a Friday and a Saturday, I thought I'll take the other half with me and show her the highlights of Glasgow, such as they are. So, yes, we jumped on the train. We went up there. What do you fancy for dinner? I said, Chinese. So we found a Chinese restaurant. We walked in there. Little Chinese fella walked out and spoke in a perfect Glaswegian accent, and for a moment I was completely stumped. I was looking at one thing and I was hearing another, didn't know what to do with it. Chuffed. Made the video not once but 3 times. Video Fred did to me, the first one, brought a tear. Calm down now. Calm down. You should be used to being star of stage and screen by now, Steve. But glad you liked it. Glad you liked it. I have to say, Fred is a bit of a Steve fan, so it does try to make him look good, although he kind of does that himself. That pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the chat to see what you're all saying today. If you can't stick around, then please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. And I hope to see you again very soon, tomorrow possibly. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I will be back with the Craic immediately after this final word from our key show sponsor. Let's get the music started, turn it down a little bit. How are we all doing today? I think we had there we are. It's mad when you hear Asians speak Scottish. It's like, it is. It just takes a moment. And I realise this is a slightly different subject, but I was talking to somebody about this at Intermat, funnily enough. I'm a man of a certain age, and my memory is probably not as good as it used to be. Not that it was ever that good in the first place, but here's the thing that throws me. You know, when you meet people in the industry and, not friends as such, but, acquaintances, people you've interacted with in the past, you've seen them at exhibitions, maybe you've seen them on the site, you've seen them at events and that kind of thing. And, for 10, 15, 20 years, every time you've seen them, they've been wearing, let's say, a red jacket because they represent a brand that is red. And then you go to a show like Intermat and you walk onto a stand and that same person is stood there wearing a jacket that is now yellow. My brain just has an enormous fart at that point because I can't align the person in front of me with the jacket they're wearing. And it goes with baseball caps as well. If you're familiar with seeing somebody, a Hitachi person perhaps at Hitachi, and then all of a sudden they pop up at Komatsu, throws me completely. I cannot compute. Mick says, got a Chinese on the Isle of Dogs called Nu Quan Hua, known to most as Who Flung Shit. Yes, we have one up the road. Used to be our local Chinese. We have one called the New Wu. The New Wu. You can't go wrong with the New Wu. Back in the day, 1971, in the Solomons, and 1982 in Amman, I used to deliver plant projects and training in Pidgin English and colloquial Arabic. Apart from some very funny linguistic howlers, it worked, but was never robotic. I think there's quite a big leap, I think, from Chinese to English. I'm not a linguistic expert. It's like when I listen to somebody speaking French or Italian or Spanish and sometimes even German, I can kind of figure the gist. If I speak to somebody that is speaking, or if I'm talking to somebody and they speak Finnish, nothing. I have nothing. There is no word that comes out of a Finn's mouth that makes any sense to me whatsoever. Tommy Dickfingers has just joined us over on Instagram. For those of you that know, always a pleasure to see Tommy Dickfingers. Right, back to the beginning of the chat, as is now the the regular occurrence. Dan Cullen was actually here at 9:31, so 29 minutes before I was due to start, but he was here being the early bird. Peter McKenna, for reasons that I don't fully understand, Peter McKenna started watching over on YouTube and then jumped ship and moved over to Facebook. No idea why he did that, but I hope you enjoyed both. And yes, just going back to this, during this broadcast, you can support my page, that's Fred's page, by sending stars, a digital gift that helps me earn money. Somebody did yesterday, apparently. We haven't seen them. Zuckerberg, you bugger, give us our stars. Give us our stars. We could be starving here without the stars. There is Steve Williamson, who is not feeling the love this morning because he's knackered, and I'm not surprised. As I say, one hell of a shift he put in last week. Fred's much the same. Fred was clocking 18,000 steps a day, and literally on one day, I think he'd filmed about 6, maybe 7 films, and on the way out of the show, he crammed in 2 more. I was doing my live show in the morning, as you probably gathered, and we did, on one occasion, we did 3 films before I even started work. So yeah, he put a proper shift in, and it does take it out of you. And there he is, Steve Williamson, half asleep. And there is Peter McKenna having jumped ship and gone over to Facebook. And there's Steve feeling tired and awful. The other thing as well is, of course, is a lot of things with shows and events. I think there is that big build up. There's the anticipation, the adrenaline of can't wait to get there. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. And then when you've done it all and it's all over and done with and everything's tucked away again, you're kind of left feeling a little bit flat. And for Steve, as far as I know, Steve isn't doing Heelhead, so I guess his next big outing, probably in partnership with his partner in crime, will be Bauman next year, which probably seems like a long way off. Get yourself the gig at Hillhead, I say, Steve, and you too, Gary. Love to see you guys down there. I'm saying down there. It's down there for you. It's up for me. Quite a way up, but you get what I'm saying. There's Jim Turner, there's Mick, there's Footy, and there's Gary Muirhead. So our question of the day was quite simply this: what is a food or an ingredient you simply cannot abide? I mentioned for years I had convinced myself that I didn't like tomatoes. It turns out I just don't like English tomatoes. Put me in Spain, put me in France, put me in Italy, put me just about anywhere else in the world, and I will eat tomatoes like they're going out of fashion. Just they don't taste it very much here. So I've overcome that. Cucumber, never liked cucumber, but I'm willing to make the sacrifice because I do need to eat more salady type stuff and veg and what have you, so I'll make the exception. One thing I cannot make an exception for, though, is celery. We'll come to more answers on that. Now, I've got an idea in mind. If you remember rightly, about 3 days before I went off to Gay Paris, I had a doctor appointment. Annual check of my diabetes, and I can tell you, largely clean bill of health, nothing to worry about whatsoever. The only thing that the doctor did say was, things like my cholesterol was fine, blood sugar was fine, blood pressure was fine. The one thing, or 2 things, not as hydrated as I should be. So there is actually a bottle of water sat on behind the computer at the moment, so I'm sorting that out. But I'm not taking enough exercise. Now, I did partially rectify that last week with my experts at Intermat. But I've got an idea in mind. I can't think of anything more dull than just going for a walk. My dogs are now both quite elderly and don't particularly like walking anyway, so I'd be walking on my own. But it occurred to me that is good chat time. So I've got an idea in mind of I say a video series. I haven't actually got many ideas for the content as yet, but I'm kind of toying with the idea of doing like a vloggy style thing, and I've in my head I've already called it Walk and Talk, because it will be me walking and talking, and I've got an idea in mind for the first subject. So given the fact that the sun is sort of shining out there, may do the first one today. I'll keep you posted. Let me know what you think. If you think it's a complete waste of time, wait till you see it. That'd be ideal. Wait till you see it. But if you think it's a complete waste of time or you don't like it, I'll bin it. If you do like it, I'll keep doing them, as long as I can keep coming up with subject matter for them. Go back to food that you can't deal with. Mushrooms. Oh, see, Steve. One of the great joys of the cuisine world, that is. I'm going to be in Bergamo in Italy in 10 days. I go on the 10th, and I can tell you that I will probably not eat a huge amount of meat while I'm in Bergamo, but I'll eat my body weight in mushrooms, ideally with polenta. Mushrooms on polenta, one of my favourites. Dan Cullen says, question of the day, can't stand fish, never have. Yeah, you're not alone in that. I'm always slightly suspicious of people that don't like fish because it's fantastic. But I know Dale Hawkins over at Awesome Earth Movers can't be doing with fish. I know Nick Drew, not a fish fan. Me, I actually went for about 5-6 years. I didn't go vegetarian, but I did go pescatarian. I basically stopped meat, ate nothing but fish. Thoroughly enjoyed it too. Ken Hatcher is here enjoying some weather. Gary Muirhead, Marmite, can't stand it. Sorry, Ruth Anthony, my wife would live on Marmite. I can't be doing with it either. No desire. It looks awful. It smells awful. I have no desire to eat that stuff whatsoever. Not entirely sure I ever have. So I may be doing it a disservice. It might be the most delicious thing in the entire world, but I don't think so. Let's have a look. I think we covered all those. Used to love the old intro tune. Funnily enough, we get our music from a website called Epidemic Sound, and I was watching a video of a woman camping in the Canadian Rockies, I think. Real severe weather, and built a fire. I don't go camping. That's outside of Glastonbury Festival. I've never been camping, but I do like to watch it. I think it's the outdoors and calming and everything else. And the music that we have as our intro was part of her video. And I was sat there thinking, my God, that sounds familiar. It's my own tune. Let's have a look. We talked about dress code on site, which I kind of understand it. I kind of appreciate it. But as I say, if you are one of those that are employed, then it's your employer's responsibility to provide you with PPE. And I would go so far as to say, if they're insisting that you wear black trousers and black t-shirt, they should probably be providing those as well. I'm not entirely sure of the legality of that, but you would think, otherwise, how many pairs of black trousers and how many black t-shirts would you need? I've actually got a whole bunch of black t-shirts here left over from a football tournament. Won't bore you with the details, but yes, I have. Let's have a look. Guesses on our various mystery machines. Now, Jim Turner, here's a topic for you in the Breakfast Show Massive. As groundworks and civil and contractors workers, we're being dogged by main contractors developers about people being in the red zone of the machines. Lads on the ground need to be at the end of the arm in order to do our job efficiently. The main contractors need educating that the red zone is for every other Tom, Dick and Harry that comes buzzing around the machine with a death wish, and no regard for whether I've seen them or not. You're absolutely right. Having said that, are you absolutely sure, Jim, that those lads that you're working alongside you are actually familiar with the potential dangers? Not entirely sure I would be. Who have we got here? We gradually whittled down what the mystery machine was. Steve, you are but a whippersnapper, so yes, Pell Job was a big brand back in the day. Back when we were selling mini excavators in the hundreds rather than the tens of thousands, Pell Job were a big deal, and they were, if memory serves me correctly, acquired by the mighty Volvo. Somebody else that doesn't like cucumber, and somebody else that doesn't like celery. Good to hear it. See, now this one, I've never heard of Rans. Is that a Scottish thing? May well be. My granny eats it. Unfertilised eggs mashed together. Yeah, listen, it tastes delicious. Does have a nasty habit of sticking your back teeth together, but I'm okay with that. But you are speaking to a guy who, while in Japan, ate fish eggs that still had live fish in them. I have no qualms about such things. I've eaten alligator, eaten snake. Don't have a problem with that. Just celery. Can't be doing with celery. See, I agree with a part of this. I don't do raw celery, but cod roe, love it. Malt loaf, love that stuff. And egg custard. Oh, egg custard. Diesel Trade just joined us over on Instagram. There's hundreds. Scrapmaster has joined us. Shooter82 has joined us. Serraplano has joined us over. There's lots and lots, but not all of them are names that you can readily pronounce. So I'm just mentioning the ones that I've spotted that I can pronounce. Mick Norton says, we're getting the legal tech now. Employees are legally bound to follow the requirements their employer set out in the terms and conditions of employment. Employers are legally bound not to charge employees for any PPE items. As for the threat of a £150 fine for non-wearing hard hats, wait out. Not sure what that is. James Howard from the mighty Route 1 Publishing says... Wish I'd read this before I started. Celery is an aphrodisiac because you can use it as a splint. I'm just going to leave that hanging there. Thanks, James. Thank you so much. Use it as a splint. Let's be honest. It's the right shape, and I do remember Mick mentioning the fact that he had some rubber bands going spare. Yes, we did the Pell. We did the Pell job. We did the calzone pizza with the raw egg. Who else have we got here? Man arrested for injuring people with a sword in Hainault in London. Oh my God! Yeah, as I say, I think there's an easy fix on this. If the police stop somebody and they happen to have a knife on them or they happen to have a machete on them, just lock them up. Simple as. Don't worry about all the legal process. Just lock them up because they're clearly a wrong one. If you're carrying a knife, you're clearly a wrong one. She dropped lovely. Yeah, again, going back to Fabio Bruno. I met Fabio a couple of times at the World Demolition Awards back in the day, and he came over to London a good few years ago now, and myself and John Woodward took him out to a restaurant in London. A restaurant called Rules, just off the back of Covent Garden Market. If anybody knows Rules, it's one of, if not the oldest restaurants in London. So very oldie worldy. Former monarchs used to hang out there and what have you. In fact, one of them used to keep his mistress there as well. But the food there, very, very traditional, oldie English. Lots of beef and stuff. He had a great time, and he's a smashing fella, really is. The amount of videos and pictures I've been sent from Paris is crazy. Didn't realise I had so many fans in France. Won't be just France. I was very pleasantly surprised the number of people that had travelled. I mean, I don't know why I'm surprised because I travelled from the UK. Obviously, Steve had travelled from Scotland. Lots of other people had come from other parts of the world. But yeah, hanging out on the Komatsu stand, I was talking to Americans and Australians and Finns and... I bumped into a couple of Dutch guys over on the Cabelco stand, and as I say, the Chinese were there as well. So yeah, not a surprise at all. That's going to be worthy of a celebration when Steve Williamson hits the 50k mark over. I'm assuming that's either TikTok or Instagram, but well deserved. And no, we have not found out who sent us the 200 stars because Mark Zuckerberg, not rich enough apparently. He's tucked them away under his belt or something. And my apologies once again. I did leave the microphone on while I was playing that Cucarova video. Never remember. And there's Dan saying, don't sneeze. I didn't sneeze, thankfully. Speaking of Cucarova, there you are. I thought they looked very good, but I'm not an expert, but Steve is. Their machines look bloody good. Never heard of them, but by God, the backhoe at Intermat put the JCB to shame with its design and gadgets. Looked a cracker. It really did. I mean, it was one of those. There are some things that you see at exhibitions where you walk past and you think, oh well, yeah, whatever. Whereas this one, I literally stopped. Well, A, Cucarova, never heard of them, and B, man alive, that's a smart looking wheel loader right there. There were some other bits and pieces. One of the things I spotted over there, and I have to say it's gone down enormously well, I only took a photograph of it, was like a tracked base. If you imagine it like a mini tracked crane, but with a dust suppression unit on top. It's made by an Italian company called Gemmo. I'm not entirely sure how you pronounce it, but it was actually there with their French distributor. And I took a photograph of it because I thought it was a very good idea. You know, you can put the dust suppression exactly where you want it on either a demolition or a construction site. Lots of people came back, said they were very impressed with it as well. So not just me. Now, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but we've mentioned cooker over, and Jim Turner, who is right on the ball today, says that's what happens when you're working on a side slope and you get it wrong. You cocker over. Well done. Yes, pronouncing Hoodig as Hoodig, and pronouncing Hydromech as Hydromech. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Just going to go back to this one very quickly. Steve said, I met the main man from Takuchi. He came to our stand to look at the two hedges from Kinsoffer, shook his hand, but didn't speak a word of English. I'm still firmly of the belief that is the one thing that is holding back some of the Chinese manufacturers. I've worked with, for example, XCMG. I worked with XCMG at Bauma, the last Bauma, and at ConExpo. And at the last Bauma, I was producing video, as I always do, and they were so unsure of their English language capabilities, and I realised we were in Germany, but they were so unsure that the guy they gave to speak to me was actually Brazilian. His Portuguese was fantastic, no great surprise, but his English was every bit as lacking as the Chinese. The point where it starts to make sense, if you remember rightly, we've worked with XCMG at ConExpo as well, and they had an American representative who really, went full beans like an American does, and all of a sudden XCMG became a more real thing because you're communicating on a level playing field rather than trying to guess what they're saying. So yes indeed. Let's have a look. Who else have we got here? Mick says, bloody hell, Sky News has run nothing but the incident in Hainault for the last 40 minutes. I haven't seen that at all, but I'll go and have a look. Chris Ford says, having not seen any news, what's occurring? Yeah, I don't know what's occurring. I do need to go and have a shufti. Peter McKenna says, I've just been told that I'm driving the high-spec machine that Tana supply. According to a company that in Hartlepool have two having changed from Cat and Bowman compactors, they are an awesome bit of kit. Tana compactors, yeah, maybe we should feature one of those on the show. Make a good mystery machine at some point. Mick says, some idiot took a sword to 5 people at 7 this morning. Are our criminals and our lunatics getting up especially early now? When did that become a thing? Question of the day, what food can't you stand? There's another one for mushrooms. I don't understand it at all. Mushrooms, the way forward. Talking about medicals, I now need 3 separate ones. Never mind the annual checkup. Yeah, listen, I went through a bit of that. Funny enough, I was telling my doctor this the other day. I applied, and I'm going back a good 15 years, maybe even more than that. I applied for life insurance and was declined. And I was sent back to the GP who had done my initial medical, and he diagnosed me with sclerosis of the liver. It kind of goes with the job when you work as a journalist, or it used to, which is why I don't drink anymore. Yeah. Only thing I really hate nowadays is whelks. Apart from that, I'm pretty easy with food. As you know, I like Marmite and chili. Yeah, but whelks, I don't have an issue with whelks. Quite like them, actually. The one thing I would say is my dad used to eat cockles and winkles and whelks and all of those things. Lots of malt vinegar, white pepper, jobs are good. And the one thing I would say is I've eaten whelks in Spain, where they slice them quite thinly and they fry them or they grill them. Oh, now you're talking. Mick Norton says, what is he saying? As a young soldier in Germany in 1963, we each had to take a German highway code test and get 100% correct. I failed on one question. What is German for one-way street? My answer of Einbahnstrasse caused me much ridicule as it translated to one-legged street. Should have been Einbahnstrasse. I don't speak a word of German. I know what Ein is, but that's about it. Ein Bierbitter. I can do that. Don't need it anymore, but I can do that. Question like Chris Ford is going for celery, really spicy food, and the smell of cauliflower cheese cooking. Yeah, when my wife put me on the blood sugar diet, when I was first diagnosed as a diabetic, there was a degree of reluctance, but in the end, I did embrace all things on the blood sugar diet. The one thing I could never get around, though, this thing, what they call cauliflower rice. No way can I eat that. It smells awful. If someone said to me, wear this, I'd say, until you supply, I don't have to. I think that's a good point. And how can they fine you 150 quid? That's bloody overkill. And if they took it out of my wages, I'd rip them a new hole, says Taryn Cullen, who is currently looking for a job. And maybe his empathetic response to such situations is partly to blame. I don't know. Steve says, I'm in PPE clothing more than any other kind. I buy my own decent stuff and comfortable. Don't mind paying for better stuff. Yeah, I take your point. And listen, I've got a big bag of various PPE under my desk, most of which I paid for as well. But I take your point. Now, Peter McKenna. Peter, I want you to listen to this very, very carefully. Peter says, pie mash, liquor and eels is quite a favourite. Going to have to come to London again. When you decide to come to London for pie, mash and liquor, let me know in advance. The pie, mash and liquor is on me. We will meet at Manzi's in Tower Bridge Road, up the road from where my dad grew up. My treat, because I don't get to eat it anywhere near enough. Let's have a look. Peter McKenna also says, but just bought the bomb chili sauce. Pot noodles are fan-dabby-dozy now. Yeah, it's not that I don't like pot noodles. Just can't see the point in eating them. Yeah. Let's have a look. Mick says, living in the cold north and where there are many Arabic speakers, I always try to include the term winter in any conversation, which in Arabic is shitter. Wow, is it? Is it really? Peter also says, I have a cousin that can speak 15 different languages. Fun when you go to the pub and you've got Asians, Germans, Polish, Bulgarians, and speaking their mother tongue, and my cousin answers them. They soon change to English and change their conversations. I bet they do. I used to do the PR for the crusher company that used to be called Nordberg, and they changed their name to Mezzo. And they had a guy working for them, a Finn, because Finnish company. They had a guy working for them, lovely fella called Heikki Harry. Little tiny fella he was, little skinny fella, smoked like a chimney, which is probably one of the reasons he was very tiny. A very little dapper, little pencil moustache as well. But Heikki could speak more languages than you could possibly shake a stick at. And I do remember him funnily enough, we were in Paris. We were at an event in Paris, and he was kind of the host. And he was telling jokes in Finnish, English, French, German, Spanish, Russian, and Italian, and getting laughs from all of them. That takes some doing. Quite right, Mark. Only trouble being there will be one long bloody queue, but well worth the wait. Yeah, it's well worth it. It's worth it. Having said that, the one thing I have discovered is weekday midday not so busy at Manzi's. Is that because it's going out of fashion? I hope not. Not many pie mash shops left. There is a book. I can't remember what the name of it is, but there was a photographer who actually produced a book on the remaining pie and mash shops, including my old stomping ground, Harrington's over in Wandsworth Road in Battersea, but also I think there's a Harrington's in Tooting, not a million miles away from me, but Manzi's as well, and Kelly's and Maureen's and all of these, but they're a dying breed. So if you do like pie mash, get yourself down here. If you've never had it, come and have a look, because you may not be able to get it for much longer. I think that pretty much wraps us up. I am going to say good morning to Joe Brown Construction Company, LLC, who are watching over on Instagram, who have arrived just in time for me to be saying au revoir. Could have dropped that. I'm back in England now. I'm going to say goodbye in just a second. But that's an hour and 16 minutes, which is way, way shorter than yesterday, which is far more sensible, I think. I'll be back tomorrow with more of the same. Lots and lots to still show you from Intermat and beyond as well. So if you fancy that, please let us know. I'll be back with more tomorrow. and the day after. Quite likely the day after that as well. Till then, everybody, do as Dan says. Have a great day, lads. Yes, please. Peter McKenna says, have fun and a safe day. Do all of those things. I'll see you tomorrow. All the best.